It's the CalebDMTG Show.
Full screen greatness, you know it. You know it. We got some fine literature here. We got props. We got corn. We got the tingle. Is this a not safe for work stream? Well, it depends on your work. Sex work is real work. All right. So the novel. Handsome sentient food pounds my butt and turns me gay. 8 tales of hot food and beverage love from the great Chuck Tingle. We are going to be reading the first short here, Creamed in the Butt by Handsome Living Corn. It's rare that you think of a down-home southern farmer in a suit and tie, but I'm not your average farmer. Of course, there's nothing wrong with working the fields in a dirty old t-shirt and a straw hat, wiping the sweat from your brow. As you till the brown soil, I can honestly say that I put in more than enough hours doing just that. But there are many different facets of agriculture, and as the work changes in this modern day and age, the men and women who make up our American farming industry are changing with it. When I was younger, all that I really needed to worry about was rotating the crops and following the weather patterns. But these days, it seems like every political issue under the sun has worked its way into the process of growing food. The particular weekend's activity? Crop lobbying. While there was once a time that the veggies I planted were based on whatever I felt like growing, many large-scale farmers like me are currently being accosted by various companies who want their seeds sown. This is an informative stream. We're actually learning about farming. This is great. I'll be the first to admit, getting wined and dined like this is quite the treat for a humble guy like me. And I've honestly started to really enjoy these conferences. It's just hard to look back and realize that this is what the life of a farmer has become. I don't think I'll ever truly feel comfortable with my shirt buttoned all the way up to the top and this tie wrapped around me like a noose. "Excuse me," comes a deep, soulful voice, suddenly breaking my concentration. I look up, my reminiscence of the good old days dissipating quickly as is replaced by the smiling face of a large cob of corn. We just got to the good part. "Hey, Daniel62, thanks for the $50 donation." "I think I'm over there," the striking corn says, pointing to the airplane seat next to me. I should stand up and let him through, making the whole boarding process as quick and efficient as possible. But instead I just sit there and stare at him, completely taken aback by the vegetable's shockingly good looks. "Are you alright?" the corn asks, snapping me out of it for a second time. "Oh yeah, sorry about that," I stammer, standing up from my seat and then stepping out of the aisle of our bustling jet as we prepare for takeoff. I wave my hand across the row of chairs, motioning the corn inward. Even now, I can't take my eyes off this muscular agricultural staple as he moves past me and then finally collapses into the window seat. He's perfectly toned from head to toe, a beautiful yellow glow shimmering off every kernel of his body. When I take my seat once again, the vegetable introduces himself. "I'm Liplin," the corn tells me, shaking my hand. "Matthew McConaughey," I reply, giving him a firm handshake and trying my best to collect my sense. "I'm guessing you're flying to the agricultural conferences too." "What gave me away?" the cob of corn says with a wink. I laugh, instantly charmed by the handsome vegetable. I can see why this corn in particular would be sent in to convince farmers of using this species in their fields. He has an overwhelming amount of charisma to go with his dashing good looks. He thinks the subject best. "You a corn man?" Matthew asks, cutting right to the chase. I chuckle, suddenly feeling quite uncomfortable. "No, I can't say that I am." "What are you growing?" the corn continues. "If you don't mind me asking, of course." "Oh no, it's fine," I gush, waving his cares away as I try my best to remain as endearing as possible to the veggie. "Beets." Is all that Matthew says, smiling to himself, then immediately turns to look out the window in silence. I have to admit, this was not the response that I was expecting from a smooth talker such as this. I'd been bracing myself for the hard sell, and when it doesn't happen, I immediately find myself strangely disappointed. At first, I'm not sure if I should say anything, well aware that any more conversation on the matter could spark a heated debate and a sales pitch that I would, unfortunately, be forced to decline. My curiosity has gotten the best of me, though, and regardless of whether or not the corn is currently playing me like a fiddle, I need to know more. What? I finally ask. Liplin glances back at me. I'm sorry? What does mean? Why should I be growing corn? Liplin smiles. I mean, when's the last time you sat down and bit into a nice juicy piece of corn? Like really enjoyed it, in a situation where your focus was entirely on the cob itself. Maybe with some salt and butter. I don't know. Whatever floats your boat. I shrug, suddenly realizing that I truly don't remember the last time that this had occurred. Lately, it's been all beets at the house, and although they can certainly hit the spot if you know what you're doing, the thought of a piping hot corn on the cob really does sound fantastic at the moment. Liplin can see the expression on my face and just laughs knowingly to himself. See? I just don't know if it makes business sense, I tell him. The corn nods. Yeah, I guess you're probably right. What's more, the handsome, muscular cob turns away and leaves me to simmer in my own thoughts. The rest of the plane ride, we don't say another word, each of us prepping for the long weekend of meetings and fancy business dinners ahead. Despite being the representative of such a massive food staple, the living corn next to me seems incredibly calm, as if he knows something that the rest of the world doesn't. When we finally touch down in California and be collecting our bags from the overhead compartment, the corn steps towards me and hands me his business card in one cool, calculated motion. I take his card and read it aloud. Corn. It says corn. If you change your mind about your crops, give me a call, Liplin explains. We'll do dinner. Sounds good, I confirm with a nod, but before I can look up to face him again, the vegetable is gone. There's a paragraph break here. I'm gonna take a sip of water during the paragraph break. Cool guy corn. Oh, this corn is so fucking cool. I wish I was this corn. The corn has a good point. When's the last time he is focused on a nice piece of corn? The yellow kernels glistening. Oh man. The strands flowing back the mane. Oh. Oh yes. Yes. Oh. Oh. That juice, that juicy Oh, I'm reading for charity. I'm reading for charity right now. Back to the tale here. Oh, this should probably not be in Magic the Gathering anymore. Let's put this in, only chatting. Right? What is it? Only talking? Just chatting. I don't think there's like an actual literature. This is Magic Gathering. I mean, this is magical. Put this in food. Is there a food? I don't know if there's a food. Yeah, food and drink. All right, let's do food and drink. And I'm going to title the stream, Find Food Type Literature. Find Sensual Food Literature. Here we go. Now that's a stream title. All right, where did we leave off? The first day of the conference is quite productive. A slew of meetings with several very persuasive foods who are glad to pay me for my drinks, regardless of the fact that I'm clearly not interested in switching crops anytime soon. My main source of income is beets, however, and they always do a great job. Sorry. They always do a great job of showing my why this is a good relationship to maintain. I'm gonna read all of the. If I ever see a typo, I'm gonna read it as is. I'm not editing. I'm completely unedited, uncensored, raw. All right, showing me my why this is a good relationship to maintain. Taking me out for an incredible steak dinner in one of the fanciest restaurants I've ever had the good fortune to dine in. As a country boy, this is more than enough to keep me satisfied with the way things are going back home. Still, there is something that continues to gnaw away in the back of my mind, a strange ache that throbs deep down in the darkest, gayest parts of my subconscious. What if I had a relationship with corn? My life is wonderful now, and I respect the hell out of beets. But could it be even better? Alright, that's my favorite line so far. When we finished up our dinner, my purple companions offered to pay for a taxi back to the hotel, but I declined, opting instead to clear my head with a nice long walk in the warm night air. The beats insist, but I'm steadfast in my decision, and finally we part ways with a smile and a handshake. It's not a far walk between our restaurant and the convention center, which is directly across from the hotel that I've been generously put up in. I'm taking my time though, strolling leisurely as my thoughts drift this way and that. No matter what I do, I can't stop thinking about the way the light had glistened off the corn's beautiful rounded kernels, or even the succulent yet subtle taste that his body would create in my mouth. Suddenly, I find myself with the beginnings of a completely unexpected erection, my hardened member pushing gently against the fabric of my pants. A farmer my entire life, this is the first time that I've ever developed feelings for a food of any kind, let alone a vegetable. While the concept is a bit intimidating at first, it's actually quite comforting the longer I think about it. What would be so wrong for a farmer and his vegetable to take their relationship to the next level? Nothing, I suddenly realize. I reach in my pocket and pull out the card that Liplin gave me, flipping it over in my hand as my eyes scan the elegantly designed surface. There's a phone number on the back, and, seized by a moment of erotic compulsion, I call it. I hold the phone to my ear, listening as it rings twice. 3 times. Finally, someone on the other end picks up. Hello, comes a deep voice of the handsome veggie. Is this Liplin, the corn, I question? Speaking. It suddenly occurs to me that I have no idea what to say. No real reason for calling, other than the fact that my own sexual attraction compelled me to. The silence between us is deafening. My heart kicking into double time as my brain frantically searches for something to say. Hey Fullerine, thanks for the $250 donation to a very good cause. Once again, we're reading to support the Lambda Legal Defense Fund, an excellent charity going back to the 1970s, doing a lot of good pro bono work in important cases defending LGBT rights. What an aside. I met you on the plane, I finally stammer. Liplin takes his time with this information, completely chilled as he gives this space in our conversation weight. Matthew, right? The corn asks. Yeah, that's me, I tell him, sweet relief washing over my body as Liplin remembers my name. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't incredibly flattered. You, thinking about switching to corn? The golden food asks. I don't know, I sigh. Let's meet up for a drink and talk about it, Liplin offers. Where are you at? I glance around, finding the nearest cross street and then describing my whereabouts to the living food. I'll be there in 2 minutes, Liplin tells me, then hangs up. I'm trembling with anticipation now, fully realizing that the consequences of breaking my current beat contracts could be utterly devastating. Depending on how angry the beats got, I could lose my farm. Of course, that's only if I break the contract, and I suddenly realize that I've done nothing so far that could get me in trouble. For the rest of the night, I'll just keep things civil. A casual drink is nothing out of the ordinary at a conference like this. Suddenly, a beautiful yellow convertible pulls up next to me, the top down, and Liplin sitting proudly in the driver's seat. He flashes a brilliant smile. Get in, the handsome corn on the cob commands. I do as I'm told. And before I know it, the two of us have gotten off into the night, the wind whipping across my face as the city lights pass us by. Without a word between us, I found myself completely swept away by Liplin's presence, the handsome corn completely in control, while I'm just along for the ride. Soon, we leave the congestion of the city behind and start cruising up the nearby hillside, winding back and forth as trees and shrubs begin to sprout up across the landscape. Our only light now is the glowing headlamp ahead and the soft wash of the brilliant full moon that hangs above. The car begins to slow as we reach the top of the large crest, pulling off onto the side of the road, and what I soon realize is a wide-open lookout. The view is absolutely breathtaking, sweeping out over the entire city below, a blanket of twinkling lights. Lipton throws the convertible into park, but keeps the radio going, a soft, soothing wave of jazz pouring out from the speakers. "Is this where you take all of your meetings?" I ask skeptically. Lipton shrugs. "Just the important ones." "And what's so important about me?" I question. Lipton thinks about this for a moment, but doesn't answer, instead pushing the conversation off towards a different path entirely. "You see all of those lights out there across the city? Those lights are homes, and in each of those homes there's an average of 4 people living. Do you know how many meals that is?" 4 people eating 3 meals a day, I said, thinking out loud. 12 meals a day total, the corn tells me. "Do you know how many of those meals include beets?" "I don't know," I admit. "I never really thought about it." "None." Lipton says bluntly, "The average person eats 3 beets a year. Do you realize that?" I shake my head. "Where are you getting this information from?" Again, so informative. I shake my head. "Where are you getting this information from?" Immediately, the corn reaches over and pushes a button to unlock the glove compartment in front of me. There's a quick snap as the latch comes undone and falls open, spilling a cascade of paperwork everywhere. As my eyes pass over the swarm of text-colored pages, I begin to pick out an assortment of information, names and addresses, charts and graphs. What is all of this? "After meeting you on the plane, I took the liberty of doing some research on your crop selection," explains Lipton. "Your whole setup is screwed. While I appreciate the effort that this corn has put in, I can't help but feel greatly disappointed by the way that this has gone. It was the calm and casual nature of the vegetable that had been so attractive to me. The fact that he didn't actually push to sell me on anything. Now the trap has been sprung, and it's becoming achingly clear that this whole thing is much more about business than pleasure. I think you should take me home." I finally sigh, gazing straight forward through the windshield. Lipton is silent, and I can't help glancing over to see the look of disappointment and heartbreak sweep across his face. "I'm sorry," I tell him. "This was a bad idea." The corn starts his car and throws it in reverse. But before he can pull out, I reach over and put my hand on his as it rests against the gear shift. The two of us freeze, not quite sure what to do with ourselves. Hey, Warren Fish, thanks for the $200 donation. "Wait," I finally say, causing the vegetable to turn off the car once again. Without another word, I open the door and climb out, beckoning the corn to follow as I make my way down the edge of the nearby cliff. The view is incredible. I take a seat and stare out across the beautiful moonlight vista, breathing in deeply from the fresh night air. Moments later, Lipton sits down next to me. "I have to be honest," I finally tell him. "I thought there might have been something else going on between us." What do you mean?" the corn asks. "I don't know," I laugh, shaking my head. It was stupid." "No. What was it?" Lipton insists, placing his yellow hand on my leg. I glance over at him, suddenly feeling that same electricity that had been present before. I guess maybe I had a crush on you," I finally admit. "When you were taking me up here, I didn't know you were just trying to get me to switch my crops. It was ridiculous of me to think that this was anything other than a business transaction." "Oh God, it's so much more than that," Lipton suddenly blurts, leaning in and kissing me passionately on the mouth. "Speaking of passion," thanks to the $20 donation, Anonymous. "All of the pent-up desire that had been waiting so patiently within me suddenly explodes across my body, consumed by a frantic desire to become one with his handsome corn. Even though I'm completely straight and Lipton is a male, there's no denying the energy that exchanges between us any longer. Whoa," I gush as we pull back from one another. "The business can wait," Lipton tells me with a smile. "How about some cornholing?" I offer mischievously. Without hesitation, I turn and push the giant corn back onto the grass behind us, noticing now that an absolutely massive yellow erection has started sprouting from his ripped body. It grows larger and larger as I begin to passionately kiss my way down his kerneled chest, drifting lower with every touch of my lips until finally my mouth is hovering directly above his swollen member. Lipton lets out a long, powerful moan as I wrap my lips tightly around his cock, I immediately get to work, moving my head up and down his length, slowly and sensually at first, and then building speed. Soon enough, I am bobbing my head along across his length at a steady pace, allowing the corn to place his hands on the back of my skull and guide me. Oh fuck, that feels so good, Matthew McConaughey. Liplin groans, pumping his hips back against my face. I reach down and begin to play with his hanging yellow balls, which causes the vegetable to extenuate his pumps even more. Finally, when I feel like things have reached an erotic peak between us, I push down as far as I can to consume his rod entirely in an expertly performed deep throat. At least that's what the plan was. However, things don't exactly work out that way that I expected. Greatly underestimating Liplin's size, I immediately begin to choke when his dick pushes against my gag reflex. The next thing I know, I'm pulling back, releasing his shaft from my depths, and retching loudly. You're so fucking big, I admit, struggling to regain my composure. One more try. I gather myself as much as possible, and then attempt once more, taking the corn's dick between my lips, and then slowly, confidently, lowering my head onto him. This time, I am much more relaxed. And when the head of his cock reaches my gag reflex, I somehow allow it to pass by without any hesitation. Suddenly, I find myself with Liplin's giant cock dick, giant corn dick, fully inserted within my throat, his balls pressed hard against my chin. The massive food clearly enjoys being fully consumed like this, and it lets me know by throwing his head back and letting out a loud, passionate sigh of pleasure. Within the warm confines of my mouth, I run my tongue along his length, up and down the shaft as I slowly begin to run out of air. This continues until finally, I just can't take it any longer, and come up sputtering and choking. A long strand of saliva hangs between the corn's dick and my hungry mouth. I want you to pound me, I tell him, climbing up onto the vegetable as he lies sprawled out on the grass. I'm facing Liplin as I grab a hold of his wet, slobbery dick, placing it on the entrance of my tight asshole, and then carefully lowering myself onto his giant rod. Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, I begin to murmur, struggling to allow my body acceptance of his enormous size. For now, the corn is simply teasing my rim, pressing painfully against the edge of my sphincter, until finally it opens up in one quick movement, and I drop down onto him. Cornhold at last! Liplin shouts gleefully as his dick impales me. I lean forward and grip tight onto the food's shoulders, my body still desperately trying to adjust to his girth. Every ounce of my body feels stretched tight, ready to snap at any moment under the pressure of his substantial thickness. Hey, Christopher Paulson thanks for the $20 donation. Apparently this is making them feel weird in their tingly places. Well, that's good, that's good. When art can make you feel something, you know? Yeah, that's like the whole point. Every ounce of my being feels stretched tight, ready to snap at any moment under the pressure of his substantial thickness. Instead, however, the pain and discomfort that surges through me begins to subside, replaced with a strange, aching pleasure that builds and builds with every slow grind of my hips. Eventually, my movements start to speed up, turning into full-on swoops of passion against the muscular corn. By now, the tightness of my ass has given way completely in a wave of utter bliss, the mystical power of an impeding prostate orgasm blossoming within me to replace it. The sensation starts low and deep, somewhere within my belly, before expanding out in a series of beautiful surges. With each pump of my body against his giant rod, the feeling grows, moving down my arms and legs as I tremble excitedly. I reach down and grab a hold of my dick, pumping my hand across my length, in time with the movements of the corn's meaty cock up my rump. I'm so close, I yelled. Oh God, I'm gonna blow my load! Suddenly, Liplin lifts me up off of him with his muscular arms, cutting short the waves of orgasm that are beginning to build up within. What was that? I groan. I was gonna come. Not yet, you aren't, laughs Liplin. The key to every business transaction is making sure that both sides are happy. We're coming together. All right, I say with a playful grin. You're on. Suddenly, Liplin is flipping me over in the grass so that I'm now on my hands and knees, facing towards the seemingly endless lights of the city below. The sight may be breathtaking, but it's not until the giant corn pushes his deep cock inside my asshole from behind that I literally gasp out loud. Fucking hell! I cry, my fingers gripping the grass before me as Liplin gets to work from behind. The next thing I know, the handsome corn is pounding my butthole with everything that he's got, railing me with a ferocity unlike anything that I've ever seen. It feels incredible to be dominated by him, to know that he is much stronger and more powerful than me, as he uses my ass for his burning vegetable pleasure. It's not long before the familiar orgasmic sensations begin to bubble up within me once again, spilling out through my veins like simmering erotic venom. I'm quaking hard, every muscle in my body pulled tight, and then breaking like waves. "Harder!" I scream. "Pound my ass harder, Corin!" The vegetable does as he's told, never letting up for a second as he reams my depths with a sensual prowess that makes my toes curl. I'm just about ready to come when the food behind me slams forward with a powerful final thrust, crying out with a howl that echoes around us for miles. The sound is immediately joined by a spastic crackle, a series of loud pops that rattle off in rapid succession. I look back over my shoulder in shock to discover that Liplin is erupting in a fit of passion, the kernels across his body exploding into puffs of popcorn, and then shooting off in every direction. "I'm coming!" Icorn shouts. Within me, I can feel the strangely pleasant snap of his cock popping as well. His orgasm displaying itself in a carnal preparation of snack food. He's filling me up with his seed, pumping load after load within me, until finally there's just not enough room in my ass, and the popcorn comes spilling out over the edges of my sphincter, scattered across the ground below, like an overfilled popcorn machine at the local movie theater. "There's so much corn in my asshole," I shriek, beating myself off with an untamed fury. Suddenly, I'm coming as well. My eyes roll back into my head as a massive load of jizz erupts from the end of my swollen shaft. It splatters across the ground below me, mixing with the popcorn to form a warm, pearly seasoning of gayness. When I glance back over my shoulder once more, I find myself alone on the cliffside. Heaps of popcorn strewn everywhere, but my handsome companion nowhere to be found. A strong wind blows and scatters the food, some of it whipping off into the air and swirling away into the distance. In this moment, I know that Liplin is truly gone. And there's a paragraph break. I look up at the crowd before me, watching as the tears stream down their faces. I realize now that I too am crying, reminiscent of my night long ago with this agricultural lover. That's how I met Liplin, I say, reading the final words of his eulogy aloud. When I met him at that conference, I had no idea that this breathtaking living corn would change my heart and my butthole forever. He'll be greatly missed. I finished and then stepped back from the podium as a bugle begins to play, its bittersweet song soaring across the grass of the cemetery. To my left, the coffin full of popcorn begins to lower slowly into the ground. "I love you," I say under my breath, unable to take my eyes off of the oblong box until it is completely below the dirt. "I'll see you on the other side," and I'm ready for some cornhole. All right, folks. Are y'all glad you were here for this? That was creamed in the butt by my handsome living corn. You're sending the police to my home? Why? Your heart and your butthole were changed forever? Yeah. I liked the part where the corn started popping. I wasn't expecting that. I was also not expecting this entire story to be a eulogy. Read in front of the corn family. Who or what is Chuck Tingle? Chuck Tingle is the author, and he's written a lot of delightful works. This is my first time reading one of his. His books are like often shared as a meme. This book has nutrition facts at the end. Serving size, 1 buckaroo. Serving per container, enough for you and some buds. Calories, whole bunch. Calories from fat, all muscle. Daily value, total abs, 127. What does that even mean? Total calves, 1,482. Total wieners, 87. Hardness, way hard. Horseplay, thanks. Wrestling in the dark. Hot to trot moments, 2. Vitamin scoundrel, negative 50%. Normal man, 100%. Oh, man. All right. So we have breezed past the second donation goal. to read Glazed by the Gay Living Donuts. Should we dive right in? I had another donut image that I think I forgot to... Yeah, I'm not sure if y'all will like this one, but it's another donut. It's in the show me what that mouth do style. Put it up right there. Part of the decor. All right. Does that get us in the mood? We in the mood for some fine literature. What's not to like? Yeah, what's not to like exactly. Exactly. All right. We return to Handsome Sentient Food Pounds My Butt and Turns Me Gay by the great Chuck Tingle. Part 2. Glazed by the Gay Living Donuts. Our vacation to Southern California hadn't been a total bust, but it wasn't everything I'd hoped for either. When the guys and I loaded into Jordan's vintage convertible and hit the road from Ohio on a straight shot towards the West Coast, we had big dreams. Meet some cute boys, make some new friends, have a few stories to share when we returned home. And sure, we kind of did all those things, but it wasn't like the movies. Most of our time was spent sitting for days behind the wheel. And while road tripping is certainly an all-American pastime, the stretches of empty nothingness along the way really start to get to you. Your friends become annoying, and you stop caring about where the boys are because you're more worried about where the next rest stop is. Salvation finally came when we cruised into San Diego on a warm summer day and found ourselves face to face with the crowded beach coastline. Hey, Sergeant Angle, thanks for the $10 donation. Hell yeah. The three of us parked and got out, looking up and down the miles of sand in either direction. There were beautiful people everywhere, lying out on blankets, sleeping until umbrellas. I'm reading it. I'm reading it as written. Sleeping until umbrellas. Oh, umbrella o'clock. No longer sleeping. All right. Surfers cut their way through the water like tiny dots of black against the flickering jewels of sunlight that dance and play on the tips of blue waves. It was a real-life miracle, an oasis in the desert of endless gray highway between here and home. But like everything else in life, we got used to it. It's 3 days later and we're all still lying out on the beach, wondering why our trip wasn't coming together, like a movie montage with some fun, beachy rock song playing loudly over the top of it. The truth is, where you are doesn't change who you are on the inside. And our group is coming face to face with the fact that, deep down, we might just be really boring gay men. Do you ever feel trapped, I ask out loud, lying on my back as the sun kisses my already tanned skin? Jordan and Sam are on either side of me, and both guys seem to answer without words. We don't need to say it, because we're all thinking exactly the same thing. So how do you change it, I add? A follow-up to my already unanswered question. More silence and the waves rumble softly against the shore, and a lone seagull culls out in the sky. Finally, Jordan speaks up. We need adventure. I can't help but laugh, a smile crossing my lips beneath my jet black sunglasses. Then what do you call this? I don't know, he says. Maybe adventure comes from the inside, I offer. Not where you are, but what you do when you get there. I'm pretty happy with my tan, Sam adds. I laugh again. Okay, sure, me too. But we were heading back home tomorrow. We've got nothing to show for it. My tan, Sam repeats. A tan is only skin deep, I tell him wisely. Oh, so wise. Now all three of us laugh. I wanted to have some stories, you know, I explain. We just graduated high school, and up until now, have never really left Ohio. We're all going to college and state. It's like we're adults now, but we still haven't really lived. Well, what the fuck do you propose to do about it? Sam asks. I don't know. Should we go out tonight, I tell him? Like go to one of those secret donut clubs or something? Oh my. The secret donut clubs. We all know. We've all heard of them. No explanation needed here. Being from the Midwest, the donut clubs were something of a mystery to us all. A vague rumor that found its way to us through various online forums or via hushed whispers at the local gay bar scene back home. We had heard tales about the utterly depraved donut scene in San Diego, but deep down I had already considered the idea of living, talking gay pastries to be a purely European thing. Despite being invented in America, the living donuts themselves eventually started to migrate overseas in an attempt to find a more sexually liberal lifestyle. And the ones that stayed behind were eventually forced out, whether they wanted to leave or not. There was hedonism in the streets. Once the promiscuous nature of these living baked goods was completely exposed, human donut fucking was entirely outlawed. Gay, straight, all of it. The ruling led to a whole slew of human rights arguments, but despite the fact that living donuts could talk, think, and even love, they were still not considered to be legally human, and therefore not afforded the same basic privileges. This is deep. This is deeper than I was expecting. Hey, Bellmeister, thanks for the $20 donation. Jordan rolls over in the blanket and faces me, propping himself up on his arm. First of all, there are no gay donuts here in the United States, thanks to the Pastry Fucking Act of 2016. Sure, not out floating around in the public, but they're still here, I offer. You just need to find the right donut shop. I sit up and look to my left, far, far down the beach, where the stores became stranger, and sometimes less than legal. They sell weed down there like it's nothing, I say. I bet we can get a read on a hot gay donut bar. It's not long before we find a local coffee shop with a mysterious round symbol stuck inconspicuously in the outer window, a signal to those of us who knew what to look for. Our group heads inside, trying to act as casual as possible. The man helping us is young and fun, a surfer dude who's surprisingly handsome for being covered in tattoos with more piercings than I can count. His shop is only a small walk up from the main dragon of souvenir stands and bong boutiques that line the graffiti-covered beach boardwalk. What would you like? The handsome guy asks. The dark roast is fresh. Actually, I'm not in the mood for coffee, I tell him, my heart beating hard within my chest. How about a donut? Oh yeah, we got those, the man says, nodding. Apple fritter, maple bar. I hesitate for a moment, not sure how to go about this. Do you have anything a little gayer? The man freezes for a moment, then glances around to make sure a small group of friends are the only people in the store. The coast is clear, but he still seems skeptical of me. Why would you think we have living gay donuts here, the man asks. What a clandestine exchange here. I'm not exactly sure how to play this, so I reluctantly decide to proceed with some honesty. Well, there was that donut symbol in the window. Is that code? The guy shrugs, could be. We stand there a minute with the counter between us, neither one moving from our position. So coffee then, the man finally says. I sigh, turning back around to face my friends, but something stops me abruptly in my tracks. Adventure isn't about where you are, but who you are deep within. I could easily just call it a night right then and there, but at this moment I recognize it's time to step up and make something happen. I turn back around. Listen, I say. I know that there's a gay donut bar around here, and I may be a country boy, but I'm not stupid. I may not have the password or whatever it is that you need me to say, but I recognize that symbol, and I give you my word that I'm not a cop. The guy behind the counter cracks a smile, amused by my sudden rush of confidence. You're asking for something else, right? The guy asks with a slight twinkle in his eye. No, I respond, confused. Sam kicks me lightly on the shin. What was that? I couldn't hear you, the guy behind the counter continues. Because most of the living donuts have moved back to Europe. The rest are in hiding, afraid of getting deported. Sam seizes the moment and interjects. We're wondering for some friends. Oh, well, in that case, I think I can do something for you, the guy says, looking up with a wide smile and a wink. I know some places. Actually, I may be able to help you out later tonight. Have your friends call me. Really? I blurt, unable to hide my excitement. I'm Parker, he says, handing me a card with his name number, the same mysterious round symbol. Mike, I tell him, and this is Jordan and Sam. You know, the gay pastry scene isn't for everyone, Parker explains cryptically. Are you gentlemen up for an adventure? Of course, I smile. It's exactly what I've been looking for. Hey, big fat gaping donut holes dripping with glaze, thanks to the $5 donation. After a few hours of getting ready, I exchange some texts with Parker, and we head out to meet him and some friends. There's a thick excitement in the car as we cruise the city streets looking for the mysterious address that I've been texted. Finally, something interesting is happening. A story is in progress. That tall tale feeling is nothing but amplified when we arrive at the Living Donut Bar. which Parker had insisted on calling a dessert speakeasy because there's a password at the door. Is this the place? I ask an imposing man, bald and representing a similar tattoo to what Parker had. It's hard to believe anything other than an industrial packing warehouse could be behind the door in question, but after double and triple checking the address, this is the place. I don't know, the doorman says. Is it? The password, Sam reminds me. Oh yeah. I straighten myself out and stand up straight. The password is Baker's Dozen. Is that a question? The doorman asks. Sorry, I try again. Baker's Dozen. The imposing guy reaches over and twists the handle of the door, swinging it open to reveal a hustling, bustling donut shop within. Have fun, boys, he says. Hey, Vector, thanks for the $25 donation. Vector says they're proud to be a part of this community, fight the good fight. Hey, thank you, Vector. Now back to the steamy baked goods. We step inside and make our way down the stairs. The place is hopping tonight, handsome men sipping on tall glasses of milk or coffee everywhere I look. Everyone here is much cooler than us from Ohio. Mike, a familiar voice shouts from across somewhere near the bar. Out of the darkness comes Parker with a huge smile on his face, hugging all three of us in turn. I'm so glad you guys could make it. We're glad to be here, I tell him. This place is awesome. Parker nods and then takes a long swig of his 2% milk. Just then I notice a sign to the side of the band with glowing purple letters. It reads The Big Glaze. Below it is a large doorway with two bouncers on either side. People are slowly filtering in. What's that, I ask. Parker laughs. Order a milk first, then we'll talk. After tossing back a few in the booth with Parker and his exceptionally cute friends, I'm practically boiling over with curiosity, but I hold my tongue. Everyone's having a great time, and the free drinks certainly don't make it easy to pace yourself. Finally, I just can't hold in my curiosity any longer. Alright, dude, I brazenly interrupt the conversation that proceeds. What's the Big Glaze? Parker takes a deep breath. Okay, well. This is a gay donut bar, as you can see. Most of the gay donuts packed up and moved to Europe when they were outlawed, which is straight up unconstitutional, if you ask me, but a few of them stayed behind. Now they live in hiding, but the donut community has found a way to let them work under the table, providing a particular service that is commonly referred to as glazing. The fuck does that mean, I finally ask. I'm just a country boy from Ohio. You gotta walk me through this. Parker cracks a smile. It means that one man is going to suck off a whole dozen gay donuts, and then they're gonna glaze his face in hot, sugary cum. Inside of me, a fire starts to burn, overtaking everything else with a hot, unfiltered desire to be a part of this erotic celebration of living confectionery. A dozen? I repeat back to Parker in astonishment. That's a lot of glaze. Parker nods. Sometimes even more. The record right now is 16 loads from 16 different donuts. They've got chocolate, coconut, rainbow sprinkles. It's absolutely insane in there. That's, I say, looking over the door, reeling from all the nasty thoughts that are suddenly filling my brain. So hot, I finish. My heart starts to race a mile a minute, almost pounding out of my chest with the sudden realization that the adventure I'd been looking for has finally arrived. I don't think twice about what I say next because I'm afraid that if I think too much, I won't end up saying it. Where do I sign up? Parker laughs. Sign up to watch? I shake my head. No. Sign up to perform. Hey, Empty Chair, thanks for the $10 donation. Empty Chair says that Chuck isn't the only thing tingling while you read. I appreciate that, Empty Chair. I appreciate that. When the lights go up on stage, I find myself in a large, semicircle theater with a wooden floor beneath me and a series of seats that tower upwards as they go. It's a steep incline, and I'm at the bottom, looking up with my big green eyes as I rest on my knees. I've stripped down to nothing. My tan body and toned abs exposed to the audience. It's a full house tonight. Thankfully, I'm too horny to be nervous, and my eyes dart about hungrily as I look for the sweet donut cocks that apparently coming my way. Welcome to Amateur Night here at the downtown donut shop. Let's give it up for Mike. A voice suddenly booms over the loudspeaker. This is his first time here at the Big Glaze. The audience bursts into uproarious cheer, and I can't help but smile, soaking it in. Remember, the voice continues, The number of donut loads to beat without tapping out from exhaustion is 15. If Mike can take that, he'll receive the big glazed grand prize. More applause. Now let's get to it, the voice finishes. The next thing I know, a handsome floating donut is approaching me from either side. The pastries are absolutely gorgeous, muscular and toned with massive dicks hanging down from their frosted circular bodies. I look up at them happily and take an engorged cock in each hand. They're well equipped, massively hung to the point that it's almost hard to wrap my fingers around their entire width. I try my best though, and soon I'm pumping up and down on each shaft expertly with my hands. The audience seems to like what they see, and I notice a few of the watchers begin to stroke their own rods as the action unfolds before them. Eventually, I start to use my tongue on each of the 2 sprinkled desserts, going from one to the other with quick licks from their balls to the tip. It's not long before I'm swallowing one of them entirely, pushing my head down onto his sweet, sugary cock, and letting his length hit the threshold of my gag reflex. I choke and pull back, gasping for air, as his member leaves my mouth in a trail of spit. One more time, I say sheepishly. "Yeah, suck that sprinkled cock," says the donut in a sexy, authoritative tone. "You like that sweetness, don't ya?" I devour his giant cock once more, but this time I relax as it hits the back of my throat, and end up taking him entirely to the base. My face is pressed up against his pink frosting as his dick hits its limit. Then he starts fucking my face hard. The donut plows into me, pumping up and down and using me like a gay human sex toy, which actually starts to make me hard down below. While he enjoys my mouth, I make sure to continue stroking the other dessert on stage, and he seems to appreciate it, finding a rhythm with his movement against my steady strokes. With my free hand, I reach down and start to play with my cock, massaging myself as I'm violated by the living junk food. The stage lights feel bright on my skin, completely exposed to the crowd before me. My friends are out there watching, Parker too, and exposing myself to them like this is potentially arousing. I've never been so horny in my entire life, consumed by the taboo nature of this human on pastry encounter. Eventually, the floating donuts on either side of me start to tremble with pleasure, edging closer and closer to orgasm. I pick up the pace, using the spit from my mouth to frantically beat them off, until finally they explode across my face in tandem. 2 hot white loads fly through the air in milky ropes, splattering across my cheeks from ear to ear. I open my mouth to catch some of the liquid, and then swallow hungrily as the desserts disappear back into the darkness with drained balls. Immediately, 2 freshly baked maple bars approach me, taking their friend's place. These pastries are equally hung, and with a newfound ferocity and a face full of cum, I start to expertly suck them off. The desserts are clearly enjoying themselves, roughly passing me back and forth between them. I swallow deep. The maple bar to my left takes me all the way down and gags me, brutally pushing me to the point that I'm unable to breathe around the girth of his enormous dick. My tongue pushes out from the bottom of his shaft and laps against his syrupy balls as I choke. Off, fuck. The living confectionery starts to moan from his single circular opening. Are you ready for one more? I pull back to answer, but before I can form the words, a warm blast of jizz hits me in the face. I laugh a little, as it somehow manages to get up in my nose, and I smile with the strings of semen dangle off of me. He pumps a few more shots, and then turns me to face the other sweet treat, whose balls I massage in my hand. Cover my fucking face with your sugary frosting, I beg, starting to get into it now. Use me as your gay donut cum dumpster. What a tale. What a tale, huh? Some good lines in here. He begins to moan and shake, bucking forward and releasing his tension in the form of hot splatters across my face. Now that I've got 4 loads to contend with, I'm finally starting to feel the jizz blend together and form a thin sheen of glazed icing across my face. It's like wearing a mask at the spa, only warmer and many times more explicit. A little bit of it was managed to end up near my eyes, and I wipe it away with my fingers, blinking rapidly and looking up at the group of hard-cocked donuts that now float around me. Seeing that I can hold my own out here, a group has given up on approaching 2 by 2 and instead has formed a tight circle with me as the centerpiece. I look at them with pleading eyes, making my way around the circle with both hands while I ache to be touched myself. Soon this new group of desserts begins to pop, a spray here and a splatter there. They fling ropes of semen at me from every direction, landing them expertly across my face. From chin to forehead, I'm covered in pearly white milk, which runs down my neck and across my chest in long drips. Dots of white speckle my eyelashes, which I fight desperately to see through as the donuts come and go above me. Hey, thanks for the sub, Ninja Killer. I have no idea how many loads I've taken, until finally my announcer booms over the loudspeaker once again. Nice work, the voice bellows. Mike has reached 10 loads of hot, steamy frosting. That's nearly a dozen. The audience bursts into applause, and I smile wide as the strands that dangle from my chin dance in the air. I continue to stroke my dick, and as I do, my body tenses up with aching warmth, overwhelmed by the depraved situation that I have somehow gotten myself into. It's a new lap record! That's not a line. He's only got 6 more to go, winning tonight's grand prize. What are those loads going to be? Suddenly, on stage right, a huge wheel lights up and starts to spin. I can barely make out the words that are printed on it, but it appears to be a list of different body parts: mouth, abs, chest. Someone hands me a small buzzer with a single red button on top, and I hold it for a moment, not entirely sure what to do next, until finally I decide that my only option is to push it. The wheel begins to slow to a crawl, and as it does, our audience cheers, clearly thrilled about the impending result. When the wheel comes to a complete stop, the whole place erupts. All right, the announcer calls with a long drawl. The final 6 frosting loads will be blasted into Mike's tight gay asshole. 2 stagehands approach and help lean me back onto the ground, then position some sort of ramp under me so that my legs are lifted and slowly placed behind my head. My upper back still on the wooden stage floor, I find myself with my ass in the air and my butthole completely exposed to the world. 2 floating donuts approach me, with their cocks in their tiny baked hands, beating off and looking down at my fit body as it lies contorted below them. One of them is covered in dark brown chocolate sprinkles, while the other sports an incredibly arousing coat of coconut shavings. The first treat starts to moan almost immediately and shoots a string of semen directly into my asshole, where it lands and pools for a moment before sliding back down the crack of my ass. The next follows closely behind, but his aim is a little off, so his jizz flies onto my butt, but also somehow manages to add a few splatters to the mess on my face. 11! The announcer calls out. 12! 2 more Two more frozed treats approach and position themselves accordingly. As they pleasure themselves, I do the same, spastically rubbing my cock while I tiptoe on the edge of pure, blissful orgasm. As the donuts blow their loads, I finally come myself, the muscles in my stomach contracting wildly as wave after wave of pleasure shoots through me. I scream a wild, animalistic yelp and let go of everything. My eyes roll back in my head like a man possessed. I can feel the cum frosting raining down on me as I tremble and quake, my body disappearing somehow and leaving me as an object of pure, blinding pleasure. The sensation envelops me as jizz continues to fall, and the announcer calls out my benchmarks. My own loud spurts back across the stage as a forceful blast. 13, he says. 14, 15. I'm not even aware that the desserts have been replaced by others, because my eyes are now completely caked shut with sugary semen. 16! The announcer crows, and the audience loses their minds. I collapse back. Only the stage floor and the ramp is pulled out from under me so that I can lay flat. I'm utterly glazed with donut semen. We have a winner! The voice shouts. Tell him what he's won! Another voice suddenly comes over the loudspeaker, higher pitched and speaking rapidly, like I'm trapped in some sort of bizarre, sexual infomercial. Well, Mike, you've had a great night here at the Big Laze, starring in your very own donut show and taking 16 loads. You're gonna love taking 16 more during all your expenses trade trip to Holland, home of the Dutch, who came to America and invented the donut many, many years ago. You'll stay at the finest luxury hotel that Holland has to offer before being whisked away to our sister donut shop for your very own headline show. The crowd cheers again and I smile, sensing through the layers of cum in my closed eyelids that the stage curtain is now closing. I lay alone in the darkness, slowly trying to recover from the best night of my life. Yeah. You know, I think I might have learned something about myself reading that tale. Anyway, did you all enjoy it? Did you all enjoy this tale of sordid romance? Who knew that donuts could be so sexual? I think I got diabetes from reading a fucking from reading a sex story. not realistic for an amateur to match the all-time record. Yeah, I mean, maybe they practiced at home first. The ending was not as surprising as the first one. Yeah, the first one had a really good switch, didn't it? Hey CJ, thanks for the sub. Buy myself a few donuts. Oh, don't mind if I do. The donuts have arms but no legs. I mean, I think some of it's supposed to be up to interpretation, so you can truly live the fantasy however you like want to imagine these holes. All right. That was the mug I found for my my hot coffee boss. I've not read any of these tales before the stream, by the way. Like all of the twists and turns, all of the mystery and heat and sensual nature of what we're getting into. This is all news to me as well. I feel like I should be making a cup of coffee, is what I feel like. I think I'm gonna start that right now, and then I'll have a hot cup of coffee brewing at the same time as I start reading. I love that idea. Hey Anonymous, thanks for the 20 bucks. Thanks for donating. And thanks to Ro for the $31.31 donation, saying even Steven. Spewlord said we did it with $30.31. Hell yeah, we cracked it. We did it. We raised over $4,200, which is the goal I set for this charity stream, and we crushed it. The last couple times I did charity streams, I thought that the $2,000 was like a very reasonable limit, and those got destroyed. So I set this one for $4,200, and I figured I could chip in if we didn't get there. But y'all are amazing. Y'all fucking destroyed this thing. Absolutely ravished my goal within a couple hours of the stream. Alright, I'm gonna start some coffee real quick. Real quick like. Yeah, while that heats up, it does this like pre-rinse thing. I'll pour the beans in and stuff. Chuck Tingle Dino Stories. Oh no, this entire stream is gonna be food-based. I'm reading from Handsome Sentient Food. Pounds my butt and turns me gay. Tales of hot food and beverage love from Chuck Tingle. This is number 3. Slammed up the butt by my hot coffee boss. From the very second I step foot into the office, I know that something here is different. There's not any specific detail that gives it away, no single glaring sign that blinks above the doorway, screaming for my attention. Instead, I recognize it in the weight of the air, the way that it feels against my skin when I walk through the lobby of our modest commercial building on the north side of town. I stop and suddenly it hits me, the strong scent of coffee. Is that foreshadowing? Is that what that is? I hear footsteps approaching down the hallway, and moments later my coworker Janet rounds the corner. She smiles and waves as she sees me, but I can tell there's something slightly off about her. Did you hear? Janet asks, halting in front of me. I shake my head. Hear what? Brickle got fired over the weekend, Janet replies. What a very normal name Brickle has. Darpo Brickle was my boss, and despite his tendency to be a bit of a hard ass, the guy was a great leader and pretty fun to be around. I had no idea about his termination, but I also can't say that the news comes at that much of a surprise. Sales had been lagging a lot lately, and despite Darpo's efforts to get the team back on track, things haven't exactly been looking up around the office. What happened? I asked. Higher-ups wanted him gone, Janet tells me. Apparently, his performance ratings were through the floor. Just terrible numbers this quarter. I shake my head. That's too bad. I actually liked the guy. Well, you're really going to miss him once you meet the replacement, Janet says, and then suddenly straightens up. That reminds me, I was just grabbing something out of my car, but there's a meeting in the conference room in 5 minutes. Don't be late. I glance at my watch. Already? It's so early. He's already kicking things into high gear, Janet tells me. She walks past and heads out the parking lot. Oh man. It sounds like this new boss might be something of a ball buster. If you get my drift there. I watch my coworker go for a moment, and then heed her warning, kicking my pace into double time as I continue down the hallway, and then up the stairs towards our large corner office. Ooh, my coffee machine's ready to coffee. Fantastic. I didn't reach out to Mox Roasters. I didn't ask if they wanted to specifically sponsor this portion of the stream. Maybe a punt on my part. Maybe a punt on my part. When I push open the door, I find the usual hustling and bustling rows of cubicles completely empty. Instead, noticing that the conference room is in full swing. I immediately head over and push my way inside, finding my way through the usual suit and tie crowd until I arrive at an empty folding chair and sit. "He's coming!" someone suddenly says, causing an entire room of people to quiet down and find their seats. Moments later, the door of the conference room opens and a massive, piping hot cup of coffee comes sliding in across the carpet. He's tall, about 6.5 feet, and quite handsome for a beverage, wearing a tie around his ceramic body and sporting a large, muscular handle. I can't help letting my breath catch in my throat, not expecting to be so enchanted by this man, not only because he's a cup of coffee, but because I consider myself to be totally straight. Still, my attraction to this powerful Java cannot be denied. "Some of you have already met me, and some of you have not, so let's get this out of the way right now," says the coffee. "My name is Marcho Kibclaw, and I'm your new boss." The coffee scans the room after he says this, as if trying to pick up on any subtle reactions to the statement of introduction. He's like a shark in the deep black ocean, sniffing around for the scent of blood on the water. "Your old boss, Mr. Brickle, wasn't cutting it around here," Marcho continues. "Can anyone tell me how Brickle wasn't cutting it?" There's a silence for a moment, then a single hand goes up. It's my coworker Danny. "Yes," the coffee says, nodding in his direction. He wasn't hitting his numbers," says Danny. "Sales were down?" The coffee cup seems impressed with the answer. "That's correct. We are a business of numbers, all right." And Brickle must have forgotten that along the way, because despite the bad numbers, he was still granting time off and allowing people to leave early. That's not the kind of company we're going to be running around anymore here at Parkoon Lances. "Would you like to know what kind of lance company we are going to be?" Another hand slowly goes up. "Yes," Marco says. The one with the best customer care in the Tri-Cities area?" answers my coworker Bill, with a lack of confidence that makes me cringe. The imposing coffee cup sits in absolute silence for a moment, his expression utterly void of any warnings of what's to come. Suddenly Marco speaks. "Get the fuck out." Bill looks utterly stunned and somewhat confused. "What?" "I said get the fuck out," repeats the coffee cup. "Are you serious?" laughs my coworker, clearly not wanting to accept his rather brutal fate. Suddenly, the coffee cup slides forward through the rows of folding chairs, knocking them this way and that and causing people to jump out of the way before getting roughly bowled over by the ceramic mug. A few people cower in terror while others scream, but Marco ignores them, and the next thing I know, the massive coffee cup is towering over Bill, looking down at him with a searing vengeance unlike anything I've ever seen. "You're fucking fired!" the coffee cup yells. "Now get the fuck out of my sight before I pour myself all over you!" Bill stands up and grabs his coat, crying, and stumbles over to the door, pushing out into the main office as tears stream down his face. "The answer is simple," announces Marco to the room. "What kind of lance company are we going to be? The best fucking lance company on the planet. The next person who talks to me about customer service like I give a damn is going to get hot coffee all over their lap. Is that understood?" Marco slides back across the room and positions himself in front of the crowd once again while my coworkers struggle to turn their folding chairs upright and reorganize. "As you can see," Marco says, "I don't have time for any of your bullshit. Today, I want you all working twice as hard as you normally would. Birthday coming up? Why not get your kid a lance? Horse show? How about some jousting? We got lances for that. If I come around and you're not on the phone selling somebody a brand new pointy lance, then your ass is grass, understood? Yes, the entire conference room repeats back to Marco in unison. Suddenly the door opens and Janet strolls in. Stopping suddenly when she sees the chaos that has occurred, she looks to Marco. Sorry I'm late, I was just getting some papers out of my car. There's an audible gasp as the entire room holds their breaths, waiting for the edge of their seats in preparation for Marco's reaction to Janet's tardiness. The coffee cup hesitates for a moment and then slides over to Janet ever so slowly. I can hardly watch, struggling not to literally avert my eyes as the mug drifts closer and closer to my unfortunate friend. You're not late, says Marco, sitting just inches away from Janet's face now. How can you be late if you don't work here anymore? Janet looks confused. What? Marco hesitates and then suddenly he's flipping himself upside down in one swift motion. It entire room, that's the word. It entire room jumps in surprise as Marco goes spilling everywhere, the hot coffee cascading down and covering Janet from head to toe as she screams. The liquid pools out across the floor and Janet begins belligerently crying. Lucky that Marco is cooler than the steam rising off his top would have you believe. Get out! The coffee bellows, oozing into the carpet with every passing second. Get the fuck out and never come back. Janet turns and rushes out of the room, her entire body stained brown from the hot liquid. Meeting's over, screams Marco. Now get back to work. I'll be pulling you in one by one for individual meetings over the next hour, and if I don't like what I hear from you, then you can expect to end up just like her. Nobody moves a muscle, unsure whether or not this terrifying beverage has actually excused us. Go, yells Marco. Get out! Everyone bursts up from their chair and hurries out of the room, careful not to step on the new boss, as he begins to collect himself back into his mug. The rest of the day, I am on pins and needles, working harder than I ever have since first starting this job a year ago. Every single call that I make feels like it's life or death, which, I suppose, means that the coffee cup's aggressive style of management is actually working. In the cubicles around me, I can hear my coworkers typing and talking with equal fervor, trying every tactic in the book to get out there and sell more lances. This lance business seems very cutthroat. Who knew? Who knew it was such an industry? One by one, people start getting called into Marco's office, where the blinds have been menacingly drawn. The meetings seem relatively short, and consistently result in one of two endings. Half the group comes out, walks back to their desk, clearly shaken up, but otherwise happy to remain employed. The other half aren't so lucky. There's a loud crash as the door to Marco's office opens and Danny comes stumbling out, tears streaming down his face as the coffee shouts angrily at him in the background. A chair suddenly comes flying out of the office door after him, nearly missing the man as it clatters along the hallway, with a second even louder crash. And don't come back! Marco screams. There's a moment of silence, and then the moment that I'd been dreading all morning finally arrives. Yance Peppers! Screams Marco. Coming! I said. The names in this story are amazing, by the way. I think it's top tier so far. Maybe it's because there's more of them. The entire office stares as I make my way through the rows towards the gaping office door, a collective tension surging through the air like an electric current. I arrive at Marco's office and step inside. Close the door behind you, says the cup from behind his desk. Darpo's computer has already been removed, replaced by a station for sugar, cream, and artificial sweetener. I close the door. Have a seat, Marco offers, motioning to the empty chair that sits across from him. I feel as though I'm being directed to the gallows, but I have no other option than to obey the commands of my ruthless liquid boss. I sit carefully, trying not to show my nervousness, but unable to keep my body from trembling ever so slightly. I can tell by the way his muscular coffee cup eyes me up that he notices, but he says nothing. Tell me, Yance, why did you get into the lance business? Questions the new boss. Immediately my head is swimming with any number of possible answers. The obvious way to play it is to make up some kind of story in which lances mean the world to me. Maybe my father was a huge lance enthusiast and raised me on our farm, tossing them around to the Midwest. But of course that would be a lie. The real answer is I took the job because I need the money. As blunt as that may be. And I just so happen to be really good at selling lances. I swallow hard and make my choice. I'm not gonna lie, I tell the beautiful, yet utterly terrifying coffee. I started working here out of necessity. I needed the job. I really don't care about lances. I find that hard to believe, scoffs Marco, glancing down at a piece of paper on his desk. It says here that you're from Florida, lance capital of the world. I shrug. I know it's hard to believe, but I've just never understood the appeal. I'm more of a pitchfork or trident man myself, and I think that's what makes me so good at this job. I truly understand the competition. The second that those words leave my mouth, I can see something in the coffee cup change his demeanor. He instantly relaxes, softens even, and I feel ever so slightly more at ease. Now that I'm no longer completely terrified of the beverage, I can definitely feel that some aching attraction begins to seep into my thoughts. I like that answer, says Marco. It's honest, and that's something we need around here. Too many people are here because they said the right thing at the right time, not because they actually bring anything real to the table. The massive coffee cup reaches down and takes a sugar pack off the desk in front of him, tearing open the edge and pouring it over the top of his head. So tell me, the beverage begins, what do you bring to the table? I immediately notice something strange about the way my boss says this, a slight inflection that, if I didn't know any better, might have come off as flirtatious. Of course, that can't possibly be the case, so I answer him straightly. I'm the best that there is as far as developing repeat business from our clients, I explain. I know exactly how to keep them involved with us, whether it's setting up lance parties or just getting out there and making house calls to our biggest lance buyers. The coffee eyes me up and down. Another good answer, he observes. You really know your stuff. Thank you, sir, I say with a nod. What do you know about living coffee? Asks Marco. This feels like a loaded question, so I tread carefully. Well, I know that you're brewed locally most of the time. Marco nods. House blend, I ask? Kona, Marco tells me, but that's very flattering. Once more, I can feel the surge of erotic tension between us, and once more, I try my best to ignore it. Marco clears his throat. Something you might not know about living coffee is that it's very important for us to regulate our heat. As you can see, I'm very, very large. I can't fit in a microwave to be reheated over and over again. What kind of heat do you need? I ask. Marco lets a smug grin cross his ceramic face. Erotic heat. My heart almost stops as he says this. Not sure whether his explanation is a joke or a deadly serious fact of the living coffee lifestyle. Thinking quickly, I decide that it's safest to go with the serious approach. And that works? I ask with as much genuine curiosity as I can muster. Marco nods. Not only does it work, but it's very, very important. Without erotic heat, I could eventually turn lukewarm and die. In this moment, I'm actually struck with a touch of sympathy for my ruthless leader. If I was constantly hovering so close to death's door, I would probably be a little upset too, and I certainly wouldn't have had any time to deal with people who didn't take their job seriously. With every second, my heart is growing larger and larger for Marco, and I'm both scared and excited by the prospect. I realize suddenly that my cock has grown hard within my slacks, a physical representation of my swelling admiration for this handsome cup of coffee. Corporate has given me permission to hire on an employee to keep me warm, Marco explains. They will be given a raise, of course. I'd like to hire you for this position. Me? I asked, stunned. Why me? I'd like to say it's because you have all the right answers, replied Marco, but in reality, it's because you're so fucking sexy. I blush, trying to hide the fact that his blunt admission turns me on even more. I've never been with a living coffee, I admit. Any other living beverage? Marco asks curiously. I think for a moment. A gang of chocolate milk cowboys once, I tell him. But that was in another life. I must have pressed the button nearly 40 times since then. Marco nods in understanding. Well, I can promise you this. I've got much more to offer than a bunch of boring old chocolate milk. The large mug of coffee seductively begins to slide around the desk towards me, moving quietly across the carpet until he's right up next to my chair, where I can now feel the pleasant heat radiating off of him. The beverage smells incredible, perfectly brewed. There's one more thing, I say, stopping my boss in his tracks. I'm not gay. Everyone's gay for coffee, Marco says, pulling me close to him and kissing me deeply. My first instinct is to pull away, but I immediately recognize this response for what it is, the irrational fear of a truth that I knew at the bottom of my heart is real. I want this cup of coffee, and I want him badly. I accept, I tell the cup, in between wild kisses of passion. I accept the job as your erotic heater. Good, Marco says. Now get to work. Seized with an incredible gay lust, I immediately drop to my ease before this giant cup, happy to discover that a massive erect cock has risen out of his body and now stands at full attention before me. I look up at Marco, impressed. This is gonna be fun, I say. I open wide and take the coffee's dick deep into my throat. Cheers, everyone. Oh, man. That's good coffee. Oh, what a good fucking idea. Alright, let's continue. I open wide and take the coffee's dick deep into my throat, pumping my head across the length of his shaft in a series of slow, deliberate movements. My boss moans with pleasure, tilting his head back and bubbling a little at the top. I reach up with one hand and begin to play with his hanging coffee balls then. Moments later, push down as far as I can, taking his entire length with me. Somehow I manage to relax enough to allow the beverage well past my gag reflex, my face pressing hard against the cup's ceramic abs. Marco reaches down and holds me here for a moment, enjoying the sensation of having me consume his shaft fully. The entirety of his rod lodged deep within my neck. I force my tongue out as far as I can and tickle the edge of his balls playfully, until finally there's not enough air left in my lungs, and I pull back in a massive gasp. Spit hangs on my lips and the head of his shaft in a single thick rope, which I immediately use as lube while I beat the coffee boss off furiously. Faster and faster I go, pleasuring him with everything I've got, until finally I just can't take it any longer, standing abruptly. I need you inside of me, I admit to the handsome beverage. I need to deep inside this gay ass, and I need it now. Punish me like I just came in late for work. Hey, a snail chosen at random. Thanks for the $45 donation. They say really appreciate what you're doing. Supporting a good cause through charitable work? Yes! Thank you. Punish me like I just came in for work. You want me to spill on you, Marco says, like Janet? I shake my head. No. Punish me with your fat beverage dick. My boss smiles and nods. With pleasure. I immediately step past him and unbutton my pants, pulling them down along with my underwear and then leaning over his large wooden desk. I reach back with one hand and spread myself open for him, and then wink coyly. Pound me. The massive coffee cup gladly slides into position, and begins to line the head of his swollen dick with my puckered tightness, teasing the rim of my ass with his massive length. Do it! I demand. Shove it in there and fuck the hell out of me, like the bad little twink that I am! Marco slams forward, stuffing me completely with his utterly enormous rod, and causing me to yelp out loud in a mixture of both pain and pleasure. I grip onto the desk tightly, as my boss begins to thrust with me, moving slowly at first, then building speed. It feels utterly incredible, a sensation unlike anything I've ever felt. Complete with a slight buzz from the rectally consumed caffeine high. Fuck! I moan, biting my lip, as Marco's cock brutally impales me. It feels so fucking good getting slammed up the ass by my coffee in the morning. The coffee continues to pound me like this for quite a while, hammering away at my asshole with a powerful rhythmic force. I reach down between my legs and grab a hold of my hanging cock beneath, stroking pleasantly in time with every thrust up the rear. It's not long before the pleasant sensations of prostate orgasm begin to build within me, a strange and unfamiliar warmth that slowly but surely starts to creep through my body, beginning deep within my abdomen and then sweeping down across my arms and legs. I'm trembling, quaking with pleasure, unable to entirely process the feelings that course through me, and letting the excess come out in an expression of uncontrollable shaking. I'm gonna blow my load so fucking hard! I cry out. My huge coffee boss immediately stops, pulling out of me and slapping my rear. No, you're not, the beverage says. I'm not warm enough. I'm sorry, sir, I tell him. I'll come when you tell me to. Good, replies the liquid. That's what I like to hear. Marco grabs me around the waist and then flips me onto the desk, so I'm laying on my back. He grabs my pants and underwear, tearing them down and then ripping them off completely, so that my asshole and hard cock are exposed to him. My muscular legs splayed wide. The giant coffee cup aligns his cock with my now reamed back door and pushes forward, stretching out my tightness with his incredible girth. I can now feel the heat within my boss radiating against me much stronger than before, the cup of coffee clearly getting the change in temperature that he so desperately craved. As Marco slams into me once again, I start to beg for what I crave. Sweet release. Please let me come, I beg. Please let me blow this fucking load. Marco pounds me up the ass like a Java jackhammer, ignoring my words. I need to come. I'm begging you, I moan. As the caffeine surges through me. We'll come together, Marco suddenly announces. I reach down and begin beating myself off frantically, finally allowing the sensation of orgasm to completely consume my body. I close my eyes tight as it hits me in a sensual wave that pulses through my body over and over again, each one more powerful than the next, until finally I throw my head back and scream, a fountain of white-hot jizz, ejecting from the head of my cock. Oh fuck, Mark cries out, clearly finding himself in the midst of a similar experience. The muscular beverage slams into me deep and holds his arms trembling as he braces against the tidal wave of pleasure. And then finally releasing as his cum spills out into my rectum. I can feel him filling me with load after aching load, the spunk pouring out from my boss until finally there's no more room in my asshole to hold him. The jizz comes spilling down my legs and crack in pearly white streaks. Hey, Formerly Beef, thanks for the $20 donation. Beef says, great cause, very wholesome stream. Thanks for streaming for us and for being you. That's the only way I know how to be Formerly Beef. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Thanks for donating. When Marco finally pulls out of me completely, the rest of his load goes with him, spattering onto the desk below. That was perfect, says Marco, reaching out a hand and helping me up as his cum continues to drip from my reamed ass. Looks like you're just the man I was looking for. I won't let you down, I tell my boss confidently, then hesitate. But there's something else. What is it? Marco asks, his harsh exterior completely melted away, now to reveal a strong, sensitive man underneath. I'm struggling to find my words, overwhelmed with emotion as I process the events of the last 45 minutes. Marco slides up against me and lets me feel his pleasant heat across my skin. I think I love you, I finally said. I don't want this meeting to end. I don't want to ever be without you by my side. I love you too, says Marco. We hold each other for quite a while, standing naked in the middle of Marco's office until eventually he speaks again. You know, you don't have to leave if you don't want to. I look up at my boss confused. What do you mean? I mean, we can be together forever. If that's truly what you want, the coffee explains. All you have to do is climb inside of me. Climb inside of you, I repeat back in utter shock. But it's hot. What will happen to me? Well, it's going to feel very, very strange. But eventually, you'll turn into coffee too. Marco says, we'll be together forever. But who will keep you warm, I ask. We'll find someone, Marco assures me. Overwhelmed by my love for this incredible beverage, I climb up onto his desk, standing so I can look down into the massive brown pool that waits between the cup's ceramic edges. The prospect of climbing in is terrifying, but the prospect of spending a single second of my life without Marco is even worse. Okay, I say, let's do it. I take a deep breath and then throw one leg over the edge, wincing from the heat. It's very warm, but not painful, actually quite pleasant in a way. I throw my other leg over the edge, and now sitting on the side, I close my eyes, enjoying the powerful Java scent that permeates everything around us. I slip off to the edge and disappear into the swirling pool of delicious coffee. What the fuck? What the fuck did I just read? You all watched that. You're all part of this. You can't. This is on the internet. This is forever. Oh my god. I liked I liked doing Marco's voice. I don't know if y'all could tell, but I enjoyed. I was like imagining someone in between like Marky Mark and like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know. Marco's the hottest. Well, he is now. He didn't start the hottest. He is at the end. Need to brew some coffee. Yeah, right? Oh, man. I feel like we all learned a little bit about ourselves there. Oh, the last story that I have lined up was actually referenced in this one. The last one I was going to read is Shared by the Chocolate Milk Cowboys. Yeah, shared by the chocolate milk cowboys. I made these graphics without having read the books at all. They're just like on theme. Just on theme here. I'm actually gonna take a quick break and go grab myself a cup of chocolate milk. Because I have a feeling that I will have a hankering by the time I'm done with this tale. I'll be back in a minute. Alright, I've returned! With a freshly poured, thick, frothy cup of chocolate milk. This is actually a lot of chocolate milk. I don't know if I can handle a cup of milk this large. It's a little intimidating. Are the misspellings and grammar errors on purpose? Almost certainly not. Are you wondering how much high-level artistry went into the great American novel, Handsome Sentient Food Pounds My Butt and Turns Me Gay? In the first story we read, the character names got switched. I don't know if everyone noticed it or not, but like, he was like clearly referring to the corn as like his own name for a little bit. All right. Gather round, gentle viewers, as we embark on another magical journey from the novel Handsome Sentient Food Pounds My Butt and Turns Me Gay by Chuck Tingle. Shared by the Chocolate Milk Cowboys. Out here in the West, we have our own rules, and these rules are young. In fact, some of them are still being written day by day as folks continue to expand into the wild frontier from their posh city life on the East Coast. I'm gonna change the tunes a little bit. I do like having something in the background. I want to make it a little quieter. Well, it's pretty quiet already. Yeah, this is decent. Alright, their arrival is bittersweet, however. When they finally get here, what will they know of the work that was spent turning this landscape from the wild, wild west into a civilized place to dwell? Eventually, those who come out to those deserts will find convenience at every turn and think nothing of it, assuming that it was always this way. They'll have no idea of the blood, sweat, and tears that fell in the very dirt that they walk upon, no concept of the toils and tribulations of generations past. The heroes of the desert will be forgotten, but they work just as hard as ever for the greater good. I am one such hero, Billy Brucko, cattle rustler by trade. I've worked these hills and valleys since I was a young boy. Between here and the Mississippi, I know every square inch of land, at least the inches that matter when herding cattle. Being out on the range all alone gives you plenty of time to think, dwelling on regrets of the past and cooking up dreams for the future. Because of this, I'm well aware of my place in history as the wilds are tamed and the railways continue to push outward towards the Pacific Ocean. Nobody will remember the name Billy Brucko. The history books will be full of sheriffs and outlaws, of which I am neither. Just an average man trying to earn his living in this world. At least that's what I thought, until I reached the most important assignment of my life, and everything changed. What do you have for me, boss? I ask, walking into the stables to meet my employer, Mr. Velbot. It's an innocent enough question to ask, a conversation we've had countless of times before. Velbot smiles wide, happy to see me. Billy, you're already back from your cattle run. Just got home yesterday, I tell him. The man, a large gent, who has every right to be imposing, but comes off as nothing but lovable. Steps towards me past rows and rows of horses and shakes my hand firmly. Well, I'm glad you're back. I have something very important for you. Another herd, I question, lifting my brimmed cowboy hat for a moment, wiping the sweat from my brow. Already? Velbot shakes his head and chuckles to himself. Nope, not another herd. It's actually a little animal. Or I'm sorry, it's actually a little unusual. That's what I like to hear, I tell him. My usual job is to take hundreds of cows from one state to another, and I certainly do love it. But every once in a while, Velbot will trust me with some kind of high-paying parcel delivery, which is exactly what I was hoping for. Velbot steps into his office, which is located directly off of the stable, and then returns momentarily with a small wooden box. He hands it to me, and I look down to see the presidential seal. Whoa! What is this? Don't know, admits Velbot. It's top secret. Came directly from the White House and was transferred here. All I know is that I need someone who I trust to carry this thing the rest of the way to California. Apparently, there's a young professor there who needs it. A man by the name of Einstein. I run my hand along the top of the wooden box, my fingers tracing the soft, burned-in curves of its eagle seal. Well, I appreciate that, I tell Velbot. You understand that I trust you to get it there, the man continues. But I also trust you not to look inside. Ooh. How tempting. How naughty. I wouldn't dream of it, I tell him, and I mean it. If there's one thing that I am, it's a man of my word. The pay is 2 bricks of gold, Velbot tells me. 1 up front and 1 when you get back. My jaw nearly hits the stable floor. With that kind of money, I could buy a whole town using the advance alone. I try to collect my senses, but Velbot sees how much a mention of riches has knocked me off my game. I can trust you, can't I? Velbot asks. I nod, straightening up. Yes, sir. You can count on me. I make my exit from our small town of Eastwood in the early hours of the morning, already well away from the comfort of my own bed by the time the sun begins its crest atop the nearby hills. It casts the entire valley in a beautiful golden glow, the shadow of cacti stretching on and on for eternity around me. What do you think, Chad? Is he going to make it to Einstein? Is he going to manage? My trusty steed, the Dangler, is happy and healthy, keeping a good pace that I trust will continue during the days that follow. It's not long into our journey that my thoughts begin to wander toward what exactly this precious boxed cargo could be. It seems odd that the president himself would send something so valuable in such an inconspicuous way, but then again, maybe that's the whole point. It's entirely possible that whatever is in this box holds so much significance, the president couldn't risk letting anyone know about it, even his own men. It's a lot of weight to put on the shoulders of just one lone cowboy, but I'm up for the job. The rest of the day goes by without much event, and by nightfall, I've made camp. After a quick bit of wood collecting, me and the Dangler have ourselves a well-needed rest around the fire. I've just about dozed off to sleep when I smell it, the faint scent of chocolate drifting through the air around me. I sit up abruptly and look into the darkness, realizing now that I've drifted off, and that my fire is nothing more than ambers that glitter gently, like dying red stars on the dusty ground. Hello? I call out. No response. I listen close for any rustling out there in the black void that surrounds me, but hear nothing. Eventually, I lie back down, drift off to sleep. Howdy, partner, comes a deep voice that tears me from my slumber. I sit up and grab for my 6-shooter, immediately realizing that it's not there. Looking for something? Comes the voice again. Slowly I look up and see the barrel of my own weapon pointed straight down at me. Holding it steady is a large glass of chocolate milk. Looks like you're outnumbered, buckaroo, the milk tells me with a devilish grin. I glance around, seeing no one else but the single brown glass. I'm not arguing because you're a man with a gun, but it looks like it's just the 2 of us out here. The tall milk glass rocks from side to side for a moment, sloshing around the liquid within, until finally a few blobs topple out over either rim. They twist and turn in the air, but as the milk drops hit the ground, they refuse to splatter, instead forming into undulating, vaguely humanoid shapes. These shapes carry guns as well, and now a whole chocolate milk gang has their weapons pointed my way. All right, I say, putting my hands up in the air. You've got me, what do you want? We're here for the box, says the glass, who is clearly their leader. And we wouldn't have bothered waking you, except for the fact, well, you're using it as a pillar. I look behind me and see the mysterious box. I reach for it, then freeze abruptly when the glass yells for me to stop. Very slowly. Don't try anything funny now, the glass shares. I'm just going to take a pause to mention that I didn't know I had such a believable southern accent in me. Learning all kinds of things about ourselves. Like I speak, and I'm thinking, like, where did this, like, southern chocolate milk gang come from? Just puts you right in the fucking... Anyway. I look back behind me and see the mysterious box. I reach for it, and then freeze abruptly when the glass yells for me to stop. Very slowly. Don't try anything funny. Suddenly, I'm too overwhelmed with curiosity to contain myself any longer. The desire to know what could possibly be so valuable in this small parcel outweighing the desire to hold my tongue. What is it, I ask? The glass seems confused by my question. Are you serious? Absolutely, I confess. You don't know what's in the box? Nope, I shake my head. The glass and his chocolate milk buddies exchange glances with one another, and then suddenly burst up laughing, unable to contain themselves as they reel from the apparently hilarious admission. Well, looks like you'll never know, says the glass, now hand it over, nice and slow. I do as I'm told, grasping the box with both hands and then carefully holding it out towards the domineering beverage. Take it, I say. It's none of my business anyway. The glass takes the box gently and then smiles. Pleasure doing business with ya. I nod, and then immediately grab for my gun out of the glass's hands as fast as I can, twirling it on my finger and firing 2 shots into his hard outer shell. Immediately, the villainous cowboy shatters everywhere, the milk within him splashing out across the desert ground like a miniature tidal wave. I try my best to fire at the other chocolate blobs that surround me, but they're too fast, and I suddenly feel the stabs of hot lead, spelled LED. As bullets riddle my body, I collapse onto the ground, as do the milk blobs, every one of us caught in the hail of bullets. Milk slowly creeps out across the ground, mixing with my blood. In my final moments, I reach out and open the box, pulling forth a handwritten letter from within. I read aloud as my vision begins to blur, my life draining from my body. Dear Einstein, held here is the most powerful weapon in our fight for peace on Earth, the letter says. Upon pressing the button, the user will travel back in time 10 minutes, finding themselves in a universe parallel to this one. It is a place that we have come to know as the Tingleverse. Use with great caution. The Tingleverse is a strange and erotic place. But if we can find a way to harness its power, we could soon find true utopia. I invented it. Signed, President Borchentok. In my last seconds, I slam my hand down hard onto the red button. Howdy, partner, comes a deep voice that tears me from my slumber. I sit up immediately and grab for my gun, immediately realizing it's not there. Looking for something, comes the voice again. Immediately, still immediate, I realize that I've been here before. And as I glance up, I recognize the familiar face of the handsome chocolate milk. Looks like you're outnumbered, buckaroo, the milk tells me for the second time. Immediately, he does the same trick of sloshing around and forming a whole gang of milk blob bandits. My mind, however, is elsewhere, and the glass can tell. Don't you care that you're being robbed? The muscular beverage finally asks. I look at him, staring deep into his soul, and realize suddenly that this is a version of events isn't exactly the same after all. Unlike the last encounter, this cup of chocolate milk has a certain twinkle in his eye. Relaxed and suave nature that simply wasn't there the first time around. This universe is the same, but different, a little more flirty, a little more exciting, a little more gay. You don't want to take this box, I tell the tall glass of milk. Oh, I think I do, he smiles with a grin. Now hand it over. Or you will what, I say, shoot me? The chocolate milk just stares at me for a moment, trying to act tougher than he is. In the last universe, this liquid gang had been made up of ruthless killers, but now they're just big softies with soulful eyes. What's your name? I ask the delicious dairy treat. Crawborsch, the glass tells me. What about you? Billy, I inform him. You've got really nice eyes, Crawborsch. The glass blushes slightly as I say this, something the chocolate milk in my original universe would never do with sincerity. I suddenly realize that the changes between this and my previous life are much more than just external. Deep inside, I can feel an incredible, pleasant yearning for the gang of rough and tumble dairies. They're from the wrong side of the tracks, but that's exactly how I like it. Do you know what this button does? I ask Crawborsch. It takes us to an even more peaceful place, a land of love and lust, unlike any more mere mortals have ever seen. The glass says, so hand it over, before it falls into the wrong hands. It already has, I informed the handsome chocolate milk. I've already pushed it. The entire gang laughs and exchanges glances. Sure you have, says Crawborsch sarcastically. I guess I just didn't feel it when this universe transitioned over into the next one. You didn't, I tell him, because you were always here. I'm the one who transitioned. The glass hesitates for a moment, eyeing me up and down. Okay, I'll buy it. What's the difference between this universe and yours? I'm not exactly sure yet, I tell him. This one seems pretty much the same, except... I trail off. What? Asks Graborsch. My heart is thundering hard in my chest. Not sure if I should reveal myself to this chocolatey bandit, but then considering what might happen if I don't. In this universe, I find you to be very, very attractive. I admit, all of you. The glass of milk and his companions exchange glasses. I was just thinking the same about you, the glass tells me. I think it's safe to say we all were. The group of us sits in silence for a moment in this awkward standoff until finally, I pull my shirt off over the top of my head, revealing a gorgeous, muscular set of abs. Come over here, I coo seductively. Let's see if this time around, we can choose peace over war. The chocolate milk gang doesn't need to be told twice, and as they approach I can confirm that they are definitely more attractive than in the last universe. Their faces have been refined, their abs slightly more chiseled, and their swagger perfected into something absolutely stunning. The bandits surround me now, thick chocolatey cocks protruding from their bodies as they stare down at my body with rampant lust. Give me those milky cowboy cocks, I demand, reaching up and grabbing a dick in each hand. I grip them firmly, stroking up and down a few times before hungrily shoveling one of the thick, delicious rods into my mouth. I swallow him down deep as far as I can, taking note of the smooth, sugary flavor that makes up the entirety of his strangely firm member. Meanwhile, the rest of the bandits impatiently shove their massive dicks into my sightline, vying for attention. I frantically reach up and grab one in each hand, then get to work pumping up and down over their shafts with my tight grip. I follow closely with the movement of my mouth, finding a steady pace that gradually gains speed until I'm beating off their cocks with furious enthusiasm. I push down hard on the dick in my mouth, trying to take him as deep as I can, and succeeding when the massive chocolate shaft plunges well below my gag reflex. Soon enough, I find myself held tightly against his sweet bandit abs, his liquid balls resting against my chin, while I wiggle my tongue around the bottom of his fully consumed cock. I look up at the handsome dessert beverage with a fire in my eyes, his dick rendering me unable to breathe while he holds me in place with his strong hands. All the while, I continue to service his other bandits with my grip, and eventually start to rotate through the group as they take turns between my fingers. I realize now that Graborsch is undressed completely, his glass sitting empty, just a few feet away while he joins the party, as just another brown, undulating blob. The chocolate milk that I'm deep-throating lets me up, and I take in a frantic grasp of air, a brown strand of saliva hanging between my lips and the head of his throbbing cock. Seeing his chance, another one of the bandits takes me by the head and slams me down over his member as well, bumping me over his length with just as much fury as the one who came before him. Almost immediately, a second one of the chocolate milks pushes into the fray and somehow manages to get his cock into my mouth at the same time, so two of them are now fighting for position within my wet lips, splashing all over the place. As I would have expected from a group of ruthless Wild West men, they are more than a little rough with me. But instead of being terrified by their sugary strength, I find myself more turned on than I could have ever expected. I fully submit myself to their gay power, my asshole aching for the bandit's strange touch. Finally, I just can't take it anymore. I stand up suddenly and push past the outlaws, tearing off my pants and underwear, then bending over a boulder. My muscular toned ass is popped out towards them as I look back over my shoulder and wink. Not bad, cowboy, gargles one of the blobs. Oh, gargles. Hold on. Not bad, cowboy. Gargles one of the blobs. Go on, I say. Let me see what you can do with this asshole. The chocolate milks approach quickly, the first of them lining himself up with my tightness and then slowly but firmly pushing forward with his massive, girthy cock. I let out a long moan of pleasure when he enters me, gripping tightly onto the edge of the table, while the bandits begin to pulse in and out of my depths. Despite how fiercely the outlaw handles me, his penetrations are incredibly pleasant, hitting me in just the right spot to hit my prostate and send chills of pleasure across every inch of my body. Oh fuck, that feels so fucking good, I groan, slamming my ass back against him with every pound. Keep fucking me, just like that. Eventually my words transform into a long, sensual moan that echoes through the desert, growing louder and louder until finally the call is cut off when a huge cock is thrust up between my lips, gagging me. Now there's a bandit on either side of my body, railing me as I lay flat against the work table. They find a steady pace and begin using the force from one another to maintain their rhythm, pulsing me back and forth across their hard rods. I relax my throat as much as I can, and let the Coco bandit in front pound away at my deepest parts. I look at him with lustful, cock-hungry eyes, until he's finally had his fill, and trades place with another. The one behind me quickly does the same, and suddenly I realize that the chocolate milk cowboys have formed a line at either end, thrusting into my tightness until they've had their fill, and then allowing the next sweet dessert cock to have a go. They rotate like this for quite a while, and, between the 6 of them, all of the chocolate milks eventually get a chance to enjoy me from either end. One of the bandits eventually lies down onto the boulder next to me. In a strange, liquidy voice, he commands, "Get on." I pull the cock from my mouth with a gasp. "With pleasure," I tell him, throwing a leg over the top and leaning forward to kiss the chocolate milk's cold lips. I run my hands across his light brown body, drifting lower and lower until I finally reach the bandit's erect chocolate dick, which I take firmly into my hand. I lower myself down, slowly guiding him up into my ass as it stretches nicely around his massive cock. I let out a satisfied whimper when I reach into the bottom, his member fully inserted, and then begin to grind slowly against him in long, deliberate swoops. God damn, these chocolate milk dicks are so fucking good, I confess. "Do you like that fat dairy dick?" the chocolate milk asks me in his deep, soulful voice. "Do you love it up your tight, gay asshole?" "Yes! I love that fat choco cock in my tight ass. I wish I had more to fuck," I scream, lost in the moment. Almost immediately, one of the other handsome cowboys has approached me from behind, taking my ass in his cool liquid hands as he climbs up onto the boulder behind me. I look back over my shoulder, trying to figure out exactly what he's up to. By the time I realize what's going on, it's already too late to protest. The bandit briskly lines his dick up with the already filled rim of my asshole, then propels himself forward. I let out a sharp cry of pain and pleasure as my tight ass stretches to accommodate him, pushing well beyond my previous limits that I may have had. I grip my teeth as my eyes roll back into my head, trying as hard as I can to relax, while the chocolate milk gets to work pumping in and out of my hole in tandem. When one pulls back, the other thrusts forward, and vice versa, picking up speed, till they are absolutely throttling me with everything they've got. The sensation is incredible, a sweet and sugary fullness I've never experienced that causes my body to tremble with aching waves of pleasure. I reach down between my legs and start to help myself along as they pummel me, playing with my throbbing cock, letting myself go within their double-dicked cockfight. "Fuck me like a filthy gay cowboy," I hiss, but my words are cut short as a new bandit maneuvers to the front and shoves his massive liquid cock down my throat. Now I'm completely airtight, filled to the brim with cock and loving every second of it, as I barrel towards the most powerful orgasm of my life. Suddenly I'm coming so hard that I feel as though I've left my body, floating up in the air and looking down at my large frame as ecstasy hits me like a tidal wave. Every muscle seems to clench tight and then erupt into spasms, quaking across me while the bandits pound me senseless. I scream into the cock that fills my mouth, the sound vibrating across his strange dick in a strangled squeal. Jizz erupts from the head of my cock and sprays across the bandit in front of me. When I finally finish, it becomes apparent that the chocolate milks are on a similar timeline, so I pull them out of me and then roll off onto the warm desert dirt, laying on my back as the crew of chocolate milk stands around me, beating their massive dicks. "Cover me in your milk!" I scream. "Shoot those fucking loads all over this bad cowboy!" It's not long before one of them erupts with a foundation of milky chocolate spunk. It splatters down onto me, covering my stomach and ripped chest with a beautiful pearly design. "Yes," I urge them on. "More milk! Cover my face!" The second one explodes, and then another and another, all of them painting my face with their massive loads of warm cocoa. It flies out from their cocks in a series of thick ropes, plastering my face with a pearly brown glaze. I stick out my tongue and catch the final 2 payloads in my mouth, swallowing playfully, and then looking up at the chocolate milks with a satisfied grin. "Delicious," I tell them. I lay on the back for a while, staring at the beautiful blue sky and catching my breath as the milky beings slip and slide back into their glass, forming a single cowboy once more. "There's still one question," says Crawborsh. "Who gets the box?" I'm sorry. There's still one question, says Crawborsch. Who gets the box? I smile, then reach over and take the small parcel in my hands, opening it up. Both of us, I tell him as I press the big red button. Howdy, lover, comes a deep voice that tears me from my slumber. I open my eyes as the familiar glass of chocolate milk stands over me, looking even more handsome than ever. I press the button again and again and again, each time waking up in a more erotic than the last. Until eventually all matter and light begins to decay and warp. All of existence transforms and melts away, until even the button itself no longer exists. Simply the thought of its click permeating through all space and time forever. I come harder than any being ever has or ever will, and then literally become the universe, which is now made of abs. That's it. How about that? I liked the ending. It's a little sci-fi. There's a little bit of a sci-fi bent to that tale about gratifying chocolate milk. There's bonus recipes at the end. Nothing will impress your new lover more than the skills to prepare an excellent homemade meal, and with that in mind, I've included a few pages from my personal cookbook of award-winning spaghetti and chocolate milk recipes. Use these to impress your lover, or even just for a quiet night in with a bud. All recipes served too. Hold on. Chuck's famous spaghetti marinara and meatballs. Ingredients: 1 pound spaghetti, water, salt. Sauce: 2 tablespoons melted butter, 1 teaspoon red pepper, 4 cloves garlic. Well, this is all pretty normal pasta sauce stuff. 1 large chopped onion, 1 cup of fish sauce, 1 can of pineapples, 2 tablespoons of blue cheese dressing, 2 eggs. Oh my god! What was this donation? From name, it's me, Caleb. $336. Oh, thank you, me. Importantly, thanks for supporting such a good cause. Reaching in. That sure was generous of me, specifically. Hey, Synthetic God, thanks for the $69. Synthetic says, be gay, do crimes. Yeah, all of that. All of that. Well, folks, story time? Oh, no. I was the donation that crossed the threshold. I very specifically don't have to read a story now, see? I'm a little drained. What if I do a abridged version? We can do one more. Why not? Live act a story? No. We're not doing that. I may be less energetic this time. You've been warned. Let's see. Get out of here, Milk. Nobody likes you anymore. And I didn't make a graphic for the diner. But there is the novel cover. Convert it to interpretive dance. Yeah. $5,269 gotten for charity. Very nice charity, too. A very good one. Very important one. Doing important work. All right. This tale by the great Chuck Tingle is entitled Turned Gay by the Living Alpha Diner. I wonder what an alpha diner entails. What makes a diner alpha? When most people think of truck drivers, a very particular kind of guy comes to mind. Large, imposing, and bearded are all ways to describe the typical mental image, and as a trucker myself, I can honestly say that that particular imagery is fairly on point. I, however, have my own thing going on. For a trucker, I'm as young as they come, 20 years old and determined to see a bit of the country left before heading off to college, where I'll be locked down for years under the weight of textbooks and tests. Unlike many of my peers, I care about how I look during these long hours on the road, clean-shaven and lean from my push-ups during pit stops. I'll admit, however, that sometimes it seems my efforts to maintain health and a reasonable appearance are meaningless. The hours out here are long and lonely and long. And sometimes I'll go days without having a meaningful conversation. Meaningful conversation with anyone other than a gas station attendant. The lack of connection between other human beings makes you disoriented and strange, and eventually you find yourself craving conversation like you would food or water. On the night that I met Buck, I was starved for interaction. Flying through the open desert of Arizona, it had been hours since I'd even seen another pair of headlights slicing through the desert towards me, let alone talk to someone. My girlfriend back home hadn't called in a while, thanks to my shoddy phone reception out here, and even if she did, I wouldn't have been all that interested in anything Carly had to say. We'd been fighting a lot lately, and to be honest, the recent radio silence had been a welcome relief. Breaking up with her would be too messy at this point, but deep down inside I have to admit that I know it's just not going to work between us. We're incredibly different in almost every way. She's a sweet girl, but we're not meant to be together. It's been miles since the last town, and as the evening sky grows darker, my stomach begins to grumble, groaning for my attention like some terrifying desert monster who only emerges to feed at night. The next city is hours away, and the thought of waiting that long for a nice warm dinner makes me nauseous. I normally carry plenty of snacks on hand, but I forgot to stop and grab anything earlier. Of course, there's not much that I can do about it. Unless by some miracle there's a lone gas station or diner out here somewhere, I'll be waiting until the next town for a late-night meal. Suddenly, as if manifested by some divine power to contradict my negative thoughts, I see a light appear off in the distance. The closer I drive, the more I'm able to see what this light is, and moments later I laugh loudly as the welcoming neon sign of a 24-hour diner comes into view. I slap my truck's dashboard playfully, pushing the gas a little harder as I speed along the open highway towards my new destination. A few minutes later, I arrive at the diner and pull out a designated spot for long-haul truckers. I hop out and look at the neon sign before me. Butt House, I read aloud, my eyes scanning across the yellow glowing letters. I notice now that the diner is topped by a large, handsome face, which nods in my direction as we make eye contact. For some reason, I find myself looking away, slightly taken aback by the restaurant's confident demeanor. The guy has swagger, and commands attention to any patrons close enough to get caught in his smoldering gaze. My heart skips a beat, and I'm not exactly sure why, but my compulsion for a good meal is much more powerful than any other concern at the moment. I head across the parking lot, eyes lowered until I reach the restaurant's large double doors, crafted beautifully, with the building's impeccable set of abs. That's right, the building, folks. The building has these abs. Hey, Matsu, thanks for the sub, thanks for the 16 months. Again, I find myself reeling from a mysterious attraction deep down in the pit of my stomach, a sensation that I am vaguely familiar with, but previously only in the presence of a beautiful woman. I'm as straight as they come, but something about this diner immediately has a hold on me, regardless of how desperate I am to deny it. The feeling reminds me of what it was like when I first met Carly, an all-consuming attraction that has since faded from my life. I have felt this sensation a few times, but never once before about a dining establishment. I reach up and grab the door handle, pulling it open and stepping inside as I try my best to avoid staring too long at the diner's incredible body. "Hi there, welcome to Butt House," says a bubbly waitress as I approach. "Just one?" Yeah, I nod. "Right this way," the waitress says. The woman leads me through the main hosting area and down a long aisle of booths, all of them packed to the brim with hungry eaters. For being so far in the middle of nowhere, this place boasts an impressively large clientele. Everyone from fellow truckers to 20-something couples out on what appears to be a date. After seeing what the hot building is working with here, however, I'm not at all surprised. The place is beautifully lit and breathtakingly clean, decked out in the trappings of a retro diner, but updated with modern flair. The scent wafting my way from somewhere deep in the kitchen is incredible, a savory reminder of the pleasure that's headed my way. The waitress seats me by one of the windows, and heads off momentarily to bring me a cool glass of water. I open the menu, perusing my way down a well-balanced selection of various food staples. The selection's incredible, and I'm so impressed that once again I find myself simmering with that familiar, yet confusing, sensation of arousal. I can feel my cock hardening just below the table, aching for release within my pants at the thought of these well-crafted burgers and fries. Of course, it's not just the food itself, but the handsome building from which they are served. Finally, I can't take it anymore. I have to say something. This is a nice place you got here," I say aloud to the diner, trying my best to seem natural and nonchalant. "Thanks, man," replies the building's deep, soothing voice. The very sound of his words sent an erotic chill down my spine, and for a moment, I considered leaving right then and there, heading out into the parking lot, calling my girlfriend to confirm my status as a normal, red-blooded American heterosexual. Yet, despite my best efforts, I can't will myself into leaving the warm and intoxicating presence of this handsome diner. I'm Lars, I finally say, almost stumbling over this simple two-word sentence. Dirk, says the diner, with a confident swagger in his tone. Dirk Dorby. Nice, I say, nodding and trying to keep my cool. You been out here long? Oh yeah, says Turk. I was built about 20 years ago, but the remodel happened last summer. Real happy with how it turned out. Me too, I say, trying to sound natural, but the words manifesting as awkward and stilted. Moments later, me and the diner are plunged into silence, my brain desperately searching for something to say, as the rest of the patrons chat and clank their dishes. So, I finally start, not exactly sure where the sentence is headed, just feeling like I somehow need to fill the space. Suddenly, the waitress returns, saving me from myself. She sets a tall glass of water in front of me with a pleasant smile. So have you decided on what you want to eat? Oh, yeah, I responded. I'll just get a burger. Fries, the waitress asks. Sure, I nod. The waitress leaves once again to put in my order, and I find myself alone with the diner once more. I'm racked my brain with what to say next, struggling to find another spark of conversation, when suddenly the building speaks. I saw your truck out front in the parking lot. Is this your usual route? Turk asks. Not really. I took over for a buddy who got sick. My usual drive is pretty far north from here. So that's why I've never seen you before, says the diner. Glad I did, though. My breath catches in my throat as he says this, immediately picking on an unexpected hint of something more lurking just below the surface of his words. You are? I ask, my cock literally throbbing to be touched, as it aches under the diner table. Yeah, I mean, you're a really good-looking guy, Turk tells me. I love it when handsome guys stop in to eat. Why wouldn't I? I don't know, I stammer. Are you single, the diner asks. I freeze, not wanting to answer his very direct and very important question. I don't want to lie, but my attraction to this living building is just too strong to jeopardize my chances. Tonight I am, I finally say. The diner is silent a moment, then follows up with, You gay? Tonight I am. I repeat to him, my voice quaking. Suddenly I can feel the bench moving slightly beneath my ass, just enough to make me jump a bit. Look up in surprise. How's that, the restaurant asks. I relax as much as I can, given this is my first homosexual experience, and lay back into the comfortable red leather booth. I let out a long sigh as the seat moves below me, massaging my ass cheeks in a series of powerful, circular moments. That feels great, I tell him, trying not to alert the other patrons to the homoerotic encounter unfolding just beneath their noses. I take out one hand and reach slowly down towards my waistline, my rock-hard cock craving the tight grip of my fingers. I'm almost there when suddenly my food arrives. I jolt up straight on the bench. Here you go, says the waitress, enjoy. As soon as the woman walks away, I can hear the diner's voice drifting over to me. Listen, this is a 24-hour diner, so it's hard for me to get any alone time. But I want you. I want you too, I confess. I want you so bad. Finish your food and then walk over to the back door. There's stairs leading up to the roof. Okay, I nod. I dig into my burger, but I can't find the appetite. Don't get me wrong, the food itself is delicious. But at this point, I'm way too distracted by the illicit invitation. I make it halfway through and then finally stand up from my booth in lustful frustration, throwing down more than enough cash to cover the meal. I march through the restaurant and down a small hallway with an inconspicuous door at the end. I open it up and find a flight of stairs waiting for me. I don't know if I can do this, I confess. My heart beating a mile a minute. I lied earlier. I have a girlfriend at home. And I'm straight! Then don't do it, the diner says to me confidently. I freeze, not knowing what kind of response I'm expected, but finding myself wholly unsatisfied. Maybe that life back home was just a facade. A version of the truth that society demands of me, instead of the truth that I want for myself? What if the real me is nothing but a hardcore gay diner fucker? I can't help but find the thought of this secret underworld incredibly arousing. The home that I've long been searching for. Never mind, I say. I'm coming up. I climb the stairs and push through a door at the top, now finding myself on the roof of the diner with a gorgeous night sky hanging above. "Come here," says Turk, his voice deep, smooth, and seductive. Slowly I walk across the darkened rooftop until I've reached the other side, where Turk's massive face rests embedded within the front of the building. The sight of him this close is simply breathtaking. A perfect specimen of a man that is also a diner. Closer, Turk tells me. I do as I'm told, moving carefully toward his chiseled face along the edge of the diner. Up here above the parking lot, it's hard not to glance down at the edge, and when I do, my heart nearly stops. This building may only be 1 story tall, but from the looks of it, it's an extra large story. I also realize that my perch is not as private as I'd hoped, and anyone passing beneath us could easily look up and spot me, the living diner exchanging sweet nothings in the dark. I'm right up next to the diner's face when he finally tells me to stop. There. "Now what?" I ask. "Take out that cock of yours and let me suck you off," Turk commands. I glance back over my shoulder at the parking lot below, but they'll see us. "I don't care," Turk says. "But if it'll make you more comfortable, I'll see what I can do." Seconds later, the outer building lights begin to lower until they're completely off, leaving me, Turk, bathed in nothing but the shining white moonlight. "Now take out that fat, juicy cock of yours," repeats Turk. I slowly unzip my pants and pull out my aching rod, which is hard as it can be and ready for action. Turk smiles and gives me a little wink. Then the building opens his mouth and takes me deep into his throat. I let out a long, satisfied groan as Turk consumes me, savoring the feelings of his movements as he bobs up and down with his head across my shaft. "Fuck, that feels good," I tell him. Turk continues to service me like this, gaining speed for a moment, and then suddenly coming to a stop as he takes my cock all the way down his neck. I plunge my way past the giant head's gag reflex, come to rest in his depths, finding myself the lucky subject of a perfectly performed deep throat. The diner lets me remain for a while, holding me within him until he can finally just can't take it any longer. I pull it out, and the diner gulps down a frantic grasp of air. "God damn, I'm so fucking horny for you," Tyner tells me. Turk tells me, "I need to fuck you right now." "Then fuck me," I exclaim. "Go down into the basement," instructs Turk. "You'll see my cock jutting out from one of the cement walls. Please, get me off." I zip up my pants and hurry down across the rooftop, throwing it open and rushing down the stairs. Immediately, I'm hit with the sweet and savory smells of mouth-watering diner food, but I continue on my way, finding another stairway that goes deeper still into the basement of the building. Moments later, I'm standing in the middle of an almost completely empty cement basement, decorated with a few crates of non-perishable foodstuffs, an assortment of tables, chairs, and restaurant paraphernalia. There's one central light hanging down from the center of the room, which illuminates the proceedings in a hard, shadowed glow. "I don't see it," I admit to Turk. "Back there behind the boxes," the diner tells me. I make my way past a few crates. "Hey, Tajura1, thanks for the sub, thanks for sharing that prime. Appreciate you." Past the crates of food and suddenly find myself face to cock with the building's massive erect shaft. Turk's dick is beautiful and fully engorged, standing at attention while his 2 giant balls hang gracefully beneath. I start by cradling said balls in one hand and slowly stroking his firm shaft with the other, tracing my hand carefully up and down Turk's length. The building lets out a satisfied and thankful sigh. "Oh yeah, Lars. Suck that cock." "With pleasure," I tell him. And open wide and take him into my mouth. I pump my head up and down his member a few times, making sure to get him nice and lubed up. I do this for a good while, then remove Turk from my mouth with a mischievous smile. "How about my asshole?" I turn around and strip off my shirt, followed shortly after my back pants and back pants? What are back pants? Well, anyway, shortly after my back pants, normal item of clothing that everyone has, and boxer briefs until I'm completely naked. Carefully, I back up towards the wall until the end of Turk's cock is just inches from my asshole. His size is daunting, so I start by testing the edges of my anal limits, pushing back just enough to feel the elasticity of my hole begin to expand around his massive shaft. Turk enjoys the tease, groaning loudly each time I pull away. Fortunately for him, however, I'm also in no mood to wait. After only a few seconds... There's only 2 pages left. After a few brief... I don't know if we'll be able to get there in only 2 pages. For a few brief seconds of our anal cat and mouse... Well, that's a line. Anal cat and mouse. I committed fully to the handsome restaurant, pushing down firmly onto his rod and biting my lip as it slides up inside me. The way that his enormous size stretched my limits is incredible, a sensation unlike anything I've ever felt. What was once a deep-rooted discomfort has given way to something beautiful and primal, a strange, full sensation that causes my own cock to twitch with every successful slam up my butt. Fuck me harder, I command to the living diner. Fuck me like the gay little twink that I am deep down inside. I thought you had a girlfriend, Turk says jokingly. I'm gay now, I shout. You've turned me gay, and I love it! The restaurant is giving me everything that he's got, slamming my asshole with all of his force as my frantic moans of ecstasy echo throughout the basement. It's not long before the blossoming gay lust starts to give way to something else. I close my eyes tight, trying to fight the powerful thoughts that begin to seep their way into the dark corners of my unconscious mind. I know that if I accept these ideas, my life will completely change, and because of that, I make a valiant attempt to hold them off as long as I can. Still, it's no use. The power of homosexual love is just too strong to be contained. Turk, I say, tears of joy beginning to stream down my face as the living building continues to hammer me up the asshole. I think, don't say it, the diner tells me. You don't have to say it. I do, I tell him, I do. It's gonna change everything if you say it, Turk warns, everything. That doesn't matter, I gasp through the tears. I love you. I love you too, Turk admits. His words hit me like a truck, taking the wind out of my lungs and sending my heart into a spastic fit of lovesick butterflies. I don't even know what to do with myself, but moments later the question is answered as the building begins to shake and tremble around me. Oh fuck, I'm going to come, Turk shouts. Do it, I command, pulling his cock out of my asshole and dropping to my knees in front of me. Blow your white-hot load all over my fucking face. The restaurant lets out a few more desperate grunts and then explodes across me with a thick, pearly rope of spunk, which splatters from ear to ear. I smile as the building rains his loads of jizz down onto me, covering me with his cum until completely drained. When Turk finally finishes, I stand up, impressed by his sizable load, but desperately horny to come myself. Your turn, Turk says. Go upstairs and head out back. I nod and turn to leave, grabbing a spare towel and wiping off my face, then tying it around my waist. Moments later, I emerge once again into the main dining room of the restaurant, where the patrons seem quite confused by the sight of a semi-naked man entering and then exiting their presence. I waste no time heading out the front door and then making my way around to the back of the restaurant, the night air cooling and refreshing against my bare skin. When I finally make it to the rear of the building and stop to catch my breath. Do you see it? Turk asks. I scan the restaurant's back wall, trying to understand exactly what my gay lover is getting at, until my eyes suddenly come to rest on a beautiful, muscular ass protruding from the brick. I grin slowly creeps across my face. I grin. As I step towards Turk's beautiful toned butt, then I pull out my boxer briefs and kneel down behind him, placing my rod at the rim of his puckered hole. I want you to slam me until you blow, Turk says. Fuck me as hard as you can, and then shoot that hot load up inside me. I push forward, entering the handsome restaurant, and immediately following into a series of rapid thrusts. My hips slap hard against my gay lover's ass cheeks, gaining speed as they go until I'm hammering him with everything I've got. I can feel the familiar sensation of orgasm welling up inside me as I continue to slam Turk's tightness. Do it, Turk yells. Blast that cum into my hot gay restaurant ass. The sound of the building's deep, sexy voice puts me over the top. And suddenly I'm coming hard, lost in a haze of overwhelming bliss while semen erupts from the head of my cock and spills into the brick and mortar lover. I grasp onto the wall for support as more and more jizz continues to spill out of me. Eventually, there's nothing left. I pull out and watch as streaks of my hot pearly load spill forth from Turk's reamed asshole. Then I collapse back into the cement behind me in exhaustion. That was incredible, Turk says. I love you, I confess to the building, starting to well up again. This time, however, my tears are different. Instead of joy, I find myself swimming in a sea of fear and apprehension. What happens now? I love you, Turk. Love you too, Turk says, and then asks with concern, what's wrong? I want to stay with you, I confess. I just can't go back to my normal life now. The building is silent for a moment, deep in thought. You know, we have a server position opening up, Turk finally says. You could just stay here and work inside me during the days, and then go with me at night. Really, I asked, sitting upright. I mean, if you'd be interested in something like that, Turk offers, I can't help but smile. I'd love to stay here and work with you. Inside you. Forever. Oh, what a happy ending. Yeah, I think the act of making love to a diner was plenty imaginative. I feel like that was the worst ending of the bunch, though. Like, way worse than the person literally becoming coffee, or the person who went to the love universe that was all abs at the end. But happy endings are good. Happy endings are good. Yeah, there's some good lines in there. I'm gay now. You made me gay and I love it. Anyway, once again, that was Handsome Sentient Food, Pounds My Butt and Turns Me Gay, 8 Tales of Hot Food and Beverage Love from Chuck Tingle. He's written a lot of similar literature out there, if that's the sort of thing you're into. Maybe some of my viewers have learned something about themselves. I know I have. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. We managed to raise $5,269 for the Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund. I'm sure that's going to do some really good work. We had some fun. We drafted some cube over the course of the day. 1 trophy, 1 1 and 2, 1 2 and 1. Not bad when you consider how much gay food erotica we managed to fit in as well. I think we actually spent more time reading gay food erotica than we spent playing Magic. Yeah. So I'm probably not going to be doing this very often, but it was a nice little fun break. And again, we managed to do a whole lot of good in one stream. Over $5,000. Hell of a good run. Am I wearing a robe? I am. Yeah, I like robes.